On today's show, the Phoenix Suns are doing something with Chris Paul. Can the Mavericks get involved? Are they now going to be after Kyrie Irving? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
10 Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team, every rumor, every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad. Be an everydayer. Subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavs wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any platform and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section. Would you trade Kyrie Irving for Deandre Ayton if it meant the Mavs could also get Chris Paul in it? Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. You'll enter a promo code LockedOnNBA. They'll throw in a custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. I've got one of those. Enjoy it. If you want to support the show, subscribe to our subtext. You'll get texts from us. You can have a conversation, talk back and forth, all kinds of stuff. So subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description wherever you're listening to this. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the CP3 tree, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
We have talked about Melo joining the Mavs as an assistant. We've talked about LeBron coming to the Dallas Mavericks. And now we can talk about Chris Paul. We'll never talk about Dwayne Wade. So.
Well, but that's the whole banana boat. Dwayne wasn't on the banana boat. About Melo and Chris Paul and
true.
LeBron. You got to talk about Gabrielle Union.
Man, the NBA. The NBA is
never a dull moment.
We got a finals game. We're recording this before game 3.
Yeah.
So see how that goes. But NBA just never stops, man.
If you listen to yesterday's show, we talked about the Kyrie Irving rumors that he's, signaling that he wants to come back to the Mavericks. And I said, hey, we'll probably do a draft profile tomorrow, unless something happens. And guess what? Something happened. Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns are in talks to have some kind of contract situation work out.
So what report are you going to
I was going to say, there's some kind of resolution that will happen between the two parties. But according to Chris Haynes, he was the first one to report it. The Chris Paul era in Phoenix has come to a close. In a surprising move, the Suns will reportedly waive the veteran point guard. That's what he reported. Now, there's been a couple of follow-up reports, and I'm glad we waited a couple minutes to do this. The Athletic reports that the Suns have notified Chris Paul they intend to find a resolution this offseason that could include parting ways. So they could move on from him. The other options they're looking at is to trade, waiving and stretching his contract over multiple years, or waiving and potentially re-signing him in free agency, which sounds weird. Like, hey, we're going to waive you, you're off the team, and then all of a sudden you're back in free agency. And Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN said that they can, Chris Paul continues to want to return to the Suns as the team explores options with his future. So what are the options for the Suns right here? What are they looking at? What are the options for Chris Paul and the Suns if he does want to come back, or if they decide not to have him come back?
Well, one, I think it's important to also say Chris Haynes has a pretty good, relationship with Chris Paul. I mean, it was just, I can't remember the exact pod that he was on with Mark Stein talking about Chris Paul. It was like an actual story about Chris Paul and reporting and stuff. And I remember him talking about how him reaching out to Chris Paul to say, hey, I'm going to report this story. So I would be shocked if he hadn't talked to Chris Paul before he actually said a report like that. But yeah, I mean, it feels like the most likelihood of this scenario is, them waiving him and then stretching that money to where he's just on their books. If they waive him, they're only due to pay him around that $15 million mark. Then they can waive that to where he's on the books over the next 5 years for that, around $3 million. But if they stretch and waive him, then he can't come back. So if they waive him, there's something to think about it too. What is Chris Paul? I mean, you would think, everybody would think right now winning is just the top priority for Chris Paul.
Yeah.
But what if it's like a little bit of both? What if they do waive him and then so they're paying him $15 million either way, then he could theoretically go out and sign the full MLE with another team in the league for around that, what, $12-13 million mark. And he's going to be right around that $30 million, then making it next year, 15 from the Suns, the 12 from, that new team. So and could it be from a team that is going to be winning next year too? So I think it's kind of weird. I don't think all these reports come out and Chris Paul's back on Phoenix next year. I think either way, we're probably seeing Chris Paul in New Jersey next year.
Yeah, so he has this partially guaranteed contract where he's making $30.8 million next year, but it's only guaranteed, only $15.8 million is guaranteed of it. So they could still waive him and then just bring him back on a minimum in free agency, which is weird to think about. That he's like,
very weird.
All right, basically you're just going to be making $14, $13, $12 million less next season is what they would be saying. And then his third year, which is $30 million, but zero of it is guaranteed, which is why they can do it now. That you won't be making that $30 million. So basically, they're just taking that off the books right now if they're going to waive him. They've talked about other options, say trade or the stretch. When you talk about stretching the contract, then if they decide to stretch it, they can stretch that $15.8 million over the course of 5 years. So it'd just be like $3 million each year. But then he couldn't come back to the Suns. And so if we hear that, then he's not coming back there. This is all just kind of a weird thing because they need players. They don't want to be in that apron, but we've talked about this new salary cap. We had Eric Pincus on recently to talk about what this new salary cap is going to be in the new CBA and what the apron is going to be. They don't want to be there. They also still need players, so it's weird for them to just get rid of a player that had some ups and downs for them, but it was still a good player last year.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a money thing, then yeah, it's the waive and stretch. If it's a roster thing, then you wonder how much like their relationship with Chris Paul will play into it. Because I would have to think, I mean, I could be wrong. I would have to think that there is some team around the league that would say, hey, we have 2 players that equal $30 million that could maybe give you a little bit more, more depth.
Porzingis trade.
Yeah, it's something like that. So, but it could be a team like Charlotte or something, or
San Antonio.
He might want to go to Charlotte because his roots there. But it's like, yeah, it's a team that maybe he doesn't want to go to, and then they're like, dang, this kind of sucks, like doing him like that, sending him. So like, I feel like if he in his camp, if he knows he's not going to play on the $30 million, which you're reading some stuff from Gambo there in Phoenix that is pretty plugged in. If he's not going to go back to Phoenix, the relationship part of it, he probably just was like, just waive me. Just let me go pick my team. Let me go. Then, I mean, there's going to be a long list of suitors that are probably already or have been calling already about his interest of coming to their team.
It's just a weird situation for them. And it's weird for the idea of them bringing him back and then not bringing him back. And so it brings up the question, should the Mavericks go after him? Should, are the Suns now all of a sudden into Kyrie Irving? I think there's one thing that we've learned about this story that makes me think they're not into Kyrie. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, that's the situation with Chris Paul, is that it seems more than likely he won't play for the Suns next year. And if he does, it'll be some kind of, weird just money restructuring thing. And then everything just goes back to where it was before. But all right, coming up, let's talk about, should the Mavs go after Chris Paul? Are the Suns now a Kyrie Irving team? Are they a team that the Mavericks should be worried about that Kyrie Irving will want to sign and trade to? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about eBay Motors. eBay Motors has you covered with all the best parts. You know that you need the right fit for basketball players on your team. We've been talking about this 10th pick forever and figuring out if it's the right fit and who's the right fit. And then we talk about trade and all that. It's the same way for your parts for your vehicle. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride.
I need a new headlight on my car.
You do? Is it broken or is it just out?
Like an actual full headlight. It's like flooded. So if anybody has any hookups, let me know. Or eBay Motors could be my place.
I was going to say, so here we go. Add your car to My Garage, look for the green check to know that part will fit, or you get your money back, Isaac. Because just like in sports, confidence, baby, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, making us part of your day. Subscribe to the show. Follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. A listen is a listen, no matter if it's on YouTube or if it's on a podcast. We appreciate each and every one of them. Subscribe to our subtext if you want to support the show further. All right, Isaac, we've been talking about this Chris Paul story, and the story initially from Bleacher Report from Chris Haynes that he's done there. We're not sure if that's the case because The Athletic and ESPN have now reported that they're talking about exploring options. He could come back on a minimum for them. He could be traded. And so does this now, with the Suns not having Chris Paul or probably not having Chris Paul next year, does that make them a Kyrie Irving team? They were connected to him before the Mavericks traded for him. Kevin Durant is there, obviously. They need a point guard again. Is this now a Kyrie Irving destination again?
I mean, you could, like, if you want to put your conspiracy hats on and say, all right, what if
I always want to.
All right, let's just entertain it for a second. What if Phoenix is saying, we want Kyrie? It's Ishbia saying, we want the big three. I want the big swing, Kyrie, Booker, KD. And let's just say Dallas is somewhat interested in a DeAndre Ayton. There would have to be some other pieces in that from Dallas if Phoenix is like, hey, well, we don't want to bring in Kyrie with Chris Paul here, so we got to ship Chris Paul somewhere else. And what if Dallas is saying, hey, we'd be interested in Chris Paul, with DeAndre Ayton because we need a point guard, but we also don't want to gut our team because matching Chris Paul's salary at $30 million with DeAndre Ayton's salary at 30, then you're signing and trading Kyrie, then you're adding maybe Tim Hardaway, maybe another piece to that. So what if Dallas is like, if there's a way for us to pull this off and it's just Kyrie for DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and like Landry Shamet, then we might be interested in that if Kyrie wants Phoenix. Because then now if they waive him and let's say Dallas could create the MLE with some move or so, then you could hypothetically do the sign and trade of Kyrie to Phoenix for DeAndre Ayton and Shamet, and then bring Chris Paul in your MLE. And then you have all the rest of your pieces. You still have the 10th pick and all of that. And you're basically swapping Kyrie out for those three players. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm just saying.
I don't think so either. It is the one that makes sense if there is going to be some kind of deal. I texted that one to Brendan Clean, Locked On Suns host. And I said, hey, Kyrie for Ayton and Shamet, and then the Mavs signed CP3 into like the MLE or whatever exception they get. And he said, LOL, enjoy that. Lose. I said, yeah, I mean, it kind of is because the Mavs would lose their second scorer and Kyrie.
I'm not saying it's a great thing.
They lose talent in that trade, but you do get deeper. I mean, you get three guys for the price of one guy. So, but yeah, I don't think I'd be interested in that deal. And this is why some people were bringing up, is Kyrie now going to be, are the Suns going to go after Kyrie now? Well, they don't have the stuff to go get him. They had the stuff to go get KD, and then they traded it all, and now they don't have the stuff to get Kyrie. Even if the Mavs were super interested in Ayton, that deal overall just doesn't make sense for their team. The other thing that I think makes them not a Kyrie destination is the tweets from, John Gambadoro, we just call him Gambo, I guess. Gambo. I've never really said his full name out loud. He is a reporter around Phoenix, and he said the Suns need to avoid the apron. We've talked about this, the new CBA. They need to avoid that apron, the tax, as much as possible. And Chris Paul at $30 million was not a possibility. I've been saying for some time the only way he plays for Phoenix was waive and re-sign for vet minimum. That does count $15 million towards the Suns cap. So if it's about money, which we think it is, it seems like it's about money with this. If they just, even if they're trying to just get rid of him, why would they then go after a 46 potential $1 million player in Kyrie Irving to try and do it? Like, it just doesn't make sense for them to be like, all right, well, we can't pay Chris Paul 30, but we can pay Kyrie 46. And like that to me just doesn't make any sense.
To Kyrie's credit, Kyrie is a much better player than Chris Paul.
For sure. But just money-wise.
Yeah. For everything you've heard about Phoenix is they want more depth right now than, to consolidate. So I don't think Kyrie's a target for them. Could be wrong, but it feels like that. I was a little confused by this Chris Paul stuff. I'm really curious on how it shakes out because it feels like, hey, it would make sense to me that they flip Chris Paul for two pieces, or kind of like DeAndre Ayton that they probably will do at some point. DeAndre Ayton to another team for two, maybe three pieces, and they're adding depth to that thing. But I don't know. I'm really curious, but let's just entertain it for.
They're just already at. They're already at. So one of the reasons why I think it's another like salary cap thing is they're already at. They have Kevin Durant at 47.6. They have Devin Booker at 36. They have Ayton at 32. They have Landry Shamet at 10. Campaign is non-guaranteed. They have Ish Wainwright on a like team option about $2 million. So they're already at, what is it, like $165 million, which is over the $134 million cap and getting close to that, it's getting close to that second apron, which is just bad. So to make any other kind of moves, they had to do this, which is one of the reasons I don't think that they can be a Kyrie Irving team, or else they'd be just like we talked about with LeBron and Kyrie and Luka. They would be Kevin Durant, Booker, and Kyrie, and just minimums. That'd be the only thing they could afford.
Yeah, so I don't think they're a Kyrie team. Let's pivot to the Chris Paul in Dallas.
Yeah.
Let's say he's waived, he's a free agent. What's Dallas's chances? Should they go after him? I would just view it as a backup plan to to Kyrie going to like the Lakers or something. I mean, we were joking about like what teams would go after Chris Paul, and like you jokes throughout the Lakers. You probably weren't joking, but I was like, sure, go get him. That would take you off the Kyrie list, right? Like. Is Pelinka texting LeBron saying, "Hey, y'all are still buds, right? Like,
is this good enough?" No, he just sends him the banana boat pic. He photoshops Anthony Davis's face on Carmelo Anthony, and then he's like, "Hey, is this good?"
The Lakers just go ahead and get Chris Paul and be done with the Kyrie stuff, and let us just keep Kyrie on this. But there'll be a lot of teams I'll be interested in. I think if Kyrie left and went to the Lakers, I would be interested in Chris Paul coming to Dallas for a reasonable, contract. But that's the only really way I'm interested.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like a veteran minimum or even the taxpayer mid-level, whatever the Mavs have, which would be like $5 million or something, which the vet minimum isn't it like 3.8? It's like really close to that. It's like not too far off from that taxpayer mid-level. But they still need another ball handler. We talked about this all last year and all during this is one of the reasons why we had the
people forget about Frank.
Is that we asked Nico Harrison at Media Day about the third ball handler, and he said that, and he said Josh Green, and he said we'll see what happens with Hardy. They still need another guy like that. I mean, for when Luka and Kyrie are hurt, or if they're out for a game for rest or whatever, or even if just one of those guys needs to rest during a game. They still need one more guy. And so, bring him in, a veteran presence. He's been known to be tough on some guys. I don't know if there's Chris Paul. It feels like there should be some Chris Paul, Kyrie, either love or hate. I don't know if those guys like or hate each other, but they've been in the league for so long together that you'd think that they feel something about the other one.
I also don't, I could be wrong on this too. I also don't know if Chris Paul's like signing with Dallas to come off the bench.
No,
like I still feel like there's some other teams out there. Like he'd start for the Lakers. Like he would, he would go to a team. Like would he start? Could he start for Milwaukee with Drew and Middleton
instead
and
of
Giannis?
that like the Javon Carter spot?
Yeah, and then like he probably is prioritizing winning. But what if money still matters? And what if a team like Orlando says, "Dude, come be our coach with our young guys. Run our team." And he wouldn't go back to Houston probably, but he is exactly what Houston I think needs. Instead of like James Harden, just like come in there, be the adult in the room, and tell where all these young guys should go and like their roles and everything. Like kind of sort things out for them. But I'll be surprised. I'm so curious on like if a young team puts big money on the table, or if it's like. Yeah.
There was also a report that Frank Vogel's excited to work with DeAndre Ayton and like get him back to all-star form, which makes me think that like, are they committing to him again, or are they, or is he just gone? Because one of his big things was Monty Williams. So I'm interested in that, but
how else do they add depth? Like if they're literally going to waive Chris Paul, it's not like it opens up all this, like
anything.
I think there is a route in which they could waive him, stretch him, and they would have the MLE at that point, like the 12 million or something. But like if they do that, open up the MLE, and then I feel like they still would enter. Like I would put Ayton up for fantasy drafted people who's locked to get traded. DeAndre Ayton's high up my draft board.
Interesting. Coming up, let's get into what a Chris Paul Mavs situation would look like. What do we think about this team
I got a draft thing to throw at you too.
Oh, let's do a draft thing coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs is an incredible brand that we love, and they've got the
got them on right now, baby.
You're wearing them?
No, I'm not gonna stand up and show you.
Wait, are you wearing them with underwear or not?
Oh yeah, with.
You can wear them without underwear because they have that lining in them. So you can go check out Bird Dogs. Their shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. They stretch like khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Do you have a truly sculpted look right now?
Yeah, my thighs are looking good. Bates is going to clip that.
Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. Enter the promo code LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. You can get their shorts. We love everybody on the network that has gotten some, loves them. They love how they feel, love how they look. You can wear them in a meeting. You can wear them at field day. My wife had a field day for school. You can wear them there all over the place. Go check them out. Again, birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Isaac Harris, we're talking about this Chris Paul thing. I think we've talked through it. I don't think the Mavericks are getting involved in it. It doesn't feel like the Suns are a Kyrie Irving team. I'm done talking about this. You have a draft thing. Let's do that. Let's do that instead.
Our very own Tony East, Locked On Pacers.
Yeah.
Talking to Taylor Hendricks today at the Pacers looking like they're getting all those guys in for workouts this week. Cam Whitmore, Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker. Since the Dallas Mavericks don't make their workouts public, we kind of got to wait for the guys like Tony East of the world who can ask these prospects and say, hey, who have you worked out for? And just wait for somebody to say the Mavericks. And Taylor Hendricks says he has an upcoming workout with the Mavericks. Thank you, Tony East.
Yeah, so Taylor Hendricks, we've done a draft profile on him. We really like him. Like, if he's going to be available at 10, that's somebody that you really look at. He fits exactly what the Mavericks need. If they're going to keep the pick, then he's one that we're really into. So it's cool to see the Mavericks do their due diligence and to actually hear that somebody's going to go work out for the Mavs, because as of, a week ago, we hadn't heard any of these draft guys that had worked out for the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, you hear bits and pieces like who they've met with, or some guys that they've worked out, later the first, second round guys, something like that.
Yeah, later guys. They've done later guys. Let me clarify that. We know that they've worked out some later draft guys and things like that, but none that it should be around in 10.
Yeah, so man, it's just a fun few weeks here. And I was looking at New Orleans there at 14. We haven't heard any buzz. After today, they might be interested in Dick. The Pelicans? Have they been linked to him at all? I didn't.
I'm gonna let you get yourself out of this one.
I didn't know if we've seen any mocks with Grady Dick going to New Orleans, but yeah, he'll probably go before that.
Go listen to Locked On Pelicans today if you don't know why this is funny.
That fan.
Jake Madison
was great. Jake
Madison is covering this story today in some way. We've been talking about it.
Oh, I gotta go listen to this.
Yeah.
A situation I've been watching more and more that I would be very interested, or I'd be very interested in. We've talked about this potential trade is San Antonio. I hope you don't care. I'm just like throwing.
Go, you're good. Yeah.
San Antonio. It feels like we keep on hearing buzz about them wanting to get back up in the lottery.
Yes.
And if they want to go get, a point guard, whether it's Wemby's teammate, whether it's Cason Wallace, could they get an Anthony Black? Could they move up higher than that? They have draft picks. They have young guys and everything. They don't have, it's unfortunate because they don't have that like late first round pick that some of these other teams have, like Indiana, Utah's of the world, that have some of these later firsts that they could package. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more, if I was Dallas, I would really be on the phones with them about a Keldon Johnson and, their early second round pick, Keldon Johnson, and a future first for 10 and like Bertans.
And a future first?
From San Antonio?
Yeah.
To get out of the first round completely, to go from like
Oh yeah.
It's like it's 10 in Bertans or like Tim. I mean, I would do Tim Hardaway and 10 for Keldon Johnson and the early second round pick and a future like protected first. That allows San Antonio to get like a Case and Wallace to pair with Wemby. And I like Keldon Johnson a lot. And I think Keldon Johnson, that's the type of player that I'm looking at and saying, if Dallas is going to move out of 10 that far, especially, I want a guy of Keldon Johnson's caliber.
Yeah, because he's got some upside. We already know that he's pretty good right now, and he's signed for the next 4 years, and his contract declines, which is going to be really important to the Mavericks. They have to take some of these guys. What we talked about yesterday is they have to take 2 of these contracts, Tim Hardaway and Davis Bertans, and they either got to get rid of them to make room for somebody else, or they've got to turn them into somebody good, because they don't want to pay the tax. They especially don't want to pay for the tax if the team's not going to be any good. If the team's just going to be the same, they're not just going to run it back, re-sign Kyrie, and be like, all right, here we go. This is the team. So they got to at least turn these guys into something. And Keldon Johnson's one that matches up. He's making $20 million next year, goes down to 19 the year after that, 17.5 the year after that, and then 17.5 again that last year, which lines up with Luka's player option that last year. He's also only 24. He's been on Team USA, which is, and so we've got some connection there. And so it's interesting to think about him, and he could be a good wing that fits with the Mavericks and what they want to do.
Big body too. Like he could play with Luka. He can score. He's young. I don't know. I like him. That's a situation I'm monitoring and stuff for Dallas. So
I got sent a trade today.
All right.
Uli. Shout out to Uli from Germany. Sent me this trade. Mavs and Jazz. So we'd be calling up David Locke, hypothetically.
Okay.
Tim Hardaway and the 10th pick.
Okay.
To the Jazz for Kelly Olynyk, the 16th pick, and the 28th pick that the Jazz have via the Sixers and the Timberwolves from
late first
from the Rudy Gobert trade. So Mavs move down 6 spots from 10 to 16. They also pick up the 28th pick. They move from Tim Hardaway to Kelly Olynyk, so like moving one role player to a role player in a position that you need. And then Tim Hardaway makes $17.8 million next year. Kelly Olynyk only makes 12, and Kelly Olynyk's only signed for 1 more year, and Tim's for 2 more years. So you get off some money this year and the year after. You get an extra first, and you move down 6 spots.
This one's close for me. I think my first reaction is I want a better player than Kelly Olynyk to move back. But there's a world I could be talked into this because I do like some players at 16. We're gonna do a whole draft profile on trade back targets.
Yes. Someone texted us about this today, and I'm glad you said that.
I'm all in on Prosper out of Marquette, Omax. But so it's one of those things of depending on who the prospect is there at 16, if Lively is there at 16.
Yes.
I'm big on Prosper. If Hawkins is there, I like Hawkins a lot. If like one of those guys there at 16 and you're like, all right, Olynyk, Lively, and then you take another swing at 28. I could hear that. I just I think I want a better player. I think there's a version of it too of like if it's Colin Sexton instead of Olynyk. And
really,
would you
would
want
do that instead?
I don't know. I'm thinking about like I think Sexton's the better player, and it would give you a third ball handler.
We have Colin Sexton at home.
Yeah, we have Hardy. Speaking
Hardy.
of Hardy, real quick, Mavs CBA, who listens to our pod, they tweeted out and was like, "Hey, inspired by our pod from yesterday, like, what do you value more moving forward, Jaden Hardy or the 10th pick?" And I figured Jaden Hardy would win it. I didn't think he would win it by that much at the poll of Mavs fans, and that's fascinating to me. And I get it. We watched Hardy. We love Jaden Hardy. He's so much fun. We interviewed him at Media Day.
Hardy, let's go party.
I like Hardy a lot, but when you look at it, it's like, yeah, I mean, Hardy's to think that a second round. A guy you took you got in a second round the year before, that the fan base would value that over the 10th overall pick I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just kind of surprised that it was that big of a discrepancy in that one Twitter poll there.
Let us know if you got any trades. Send them to us. We'll probably do the draft profile tomorrow, unless something else pops up, unless some other rumor.
Derek Lively. We've been waiting to do this Derek Lively profile pod.
Yeah, I was all ready to do it today, and then this Chris Paul story came up. So let us know. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.